Today, I'm going to answer a question that a lot of stepkids ask me. How can I avoid being disinherited by my stepmother or stepfather when my mother or father dies? Hi, I'm estate planning attorney Sean Eystone, and today I'm going to give you 6 actions you can take now to help avoid this from happening. Stick around, you're going to want to hear all 6. The first thing that you'll want to do is to figure out what it is that you actually want. Think of the assets that your parents have and think which ones are important to you. And then write down why they're important to you or certain memories that you have. An easy example would be a family cottage. You probably have lots of memories about a family cottage, and you might be able to connect with your parent about that particular asset. More difficult might be $1 million IRA, but maybe you helped your parent invest or choose investments or save up for it. Or maybe you've got some comments about how hard they worked for it and how you will make sure that it's used in a very smart way or something along those lines. You don't want to make it seem like you're entitled to the asset and that you have a story and a reason that it's important to you that you inherit that asset. The second step to take once you figured out what assets are important to you and why is to have a casual conversation with your parent about estate planning. The best thing to do is to ask what your role is in the estate plan. If they become incapacitated or if they pass away, what are you supposed to do? And if you don't have a role, ask who that person is that's going to carry out your parents' wishes. A common mistake that kids make is to assume that their parents don't have anything in place or that it's old or out of date or that they haven't given it much thought. And then sometimes you can offend a parent by criticizing what they do have in place before you really find out what's there. And on the other end of the spectrum, another mistake is just assuming that everything's perfect and that your parents have everything set up when in fact they might not. So it's very important to have that casual conversation sooner rather than later. Once you've established whether you have a role or don't have a role in helping carry out your parents' wishes, the next thing to do is to try to get a copy of those documents to figure out what they say. And if you do have a role, then figure out what your role is and how to carry it out. So if you have that role, it's easy to just transition that same conversation into, hey, if I'm going to be your trustee, or hey, I'm going to be your power of attorney, could I get a copy of those documents to make sure I have them when needed? Or if you don't have a role, try to talk to the person who is in that role to make sure that they have the documents and maybe they'll share them with you. And if they won't share them with you, you can still ask your parent and say, hey, I'd really like to make sure your wishes are carried out and I want to hold this person accountable. So could I get a copy of the documents too? Once you have the documents in place, the fourth step is to ask your parent what he or she thinks they're supposed to do. A lot of times these documents are very complicated and your parents' thoughts and feelings may have shifted since they were drafted, so they might not line up. So ask who's supposed to get what assets when, who's going to be making this decisions about what assets get distributed, who's the trustee or who's the power of attorney. But also ask about the healthcare. A lot of parents have very specific wishes for their end of life care, whether they're going to be hooked up to machines or not, if they're going to be cremated or buried. And all of those things are very important too, for you to really protect what your parents' wishes are. So now that you have the documents and you've got an idea of what your parents' wishes really are, the next step is to go to an independent attorney and have them compare what your parent thinks the documents do with what the papers actually say. I say go to an independent attorney because the attorney who wrote them may have some conflicts of interest between your parent and step parent, and then telling you something that could cause some problems. So get that independent review so you can ask whatever questions you want, and there's nothing that's going to hold that attorney back from finding all of these loopholes, telling you what they are, telling you what the risks are, and whether your parent needs to update their plan or not. Once you have the documents in hand and have spoken with the independent attorney, and hopefully you've got a written report from that attorney as well, because some things might be a little complicated to just remember from a conversation, then you're going to have to try to transition to the most difficult part of this 6-step process. And that's having another casual, lighthearted conversation with your parent about what the things are that were identified by the independent attorney, the weaknesses with the plan, any loopholes that might be there, and let your parent know that, hey, I met with this independent attorney because I didn't understand what was going on with the duties or responsibilities that I had, or my rights and responsibilities, or however you want to phrase it. You talk to your parents so you know what they'll probably listen to from you, and ease into that conversation. But you're going to have to go into that conversation understanding that they may not care that there's weaknesses there. They may not care that there's loopholes there. So you'll have to use this information, and instead of planning for an inheritance, you may have to say, okay, I'm not going to get this inheritance, or I might not get this inheritance. But having that information either way is valuable, because then you know what you're supposed to do. If you have a step parent and they have set up an estate plan with your parent, the chances are pretty likely that there's going to be some loopholes. If you want to know what those loopholes are and how to plan for your future inheritance with them or around them, we're happy to do a free strategy session to go over those with you. Give us a call at the number below to schedule one today.